Good evening, ladies and gents. This is the Elbows Down MotoGP podcast, a Czech Grand Prix preview, and a little bit of a surprise this week. I'm joined as always by Keelan. How are you, buddy?
Jim, I am great, thank you. I am looking forward to the Czech Grand Prix. It is always a great time to be had in Brno. We're going to preview it, we're going to discuss it. We've got a very welcome return for this round. And as Jim said, we've got something
Yeah,
very special in store for you people this evening. So keep watching and see what it is.
yeah, yeah. It's a bit different, but also can't believe it's almost obviously Bruno is 1 month earlier this year than last. I still can't believe it's come around already. I mean, me, Alex, and my friend Gareth, and my dad and my uncle went last year for more or less a week. Just brilliant, folks. It's up there with some of the best European races you can go to and on the calendar. You know, if you like your trips, well, you go with your partner, whatever. But going with the lads is brilliant. It's the beer's cheap. It's one of the most flowing circuits. Brno is a fantastic, beautiful city. Just go. If you've been to Assen, then try Brno as well. Definitely. There's a handful of amazing events on the calendar. Brno is definitely one of them. So definitely go one year if you're not already going this year. And this year, we're coming off the back of a Mark win, Keelan, that was fairly dominant, even though Pedro had a damn good attempt at stopping him. But it looked like it was always going to happen with Mark beating him there. Better handling bike, had that experience, undercutting every overtake that Pedro had, and just dominated really after that and the sprint. But we're going to a track now, aren't we, that is completely different, much faster, and where the Aprilias had podiums that last year with Bez. Is Mark going there with a disadvantage to the last race? Would you say that's fair?
Um, I wouldn't
Or not?
say he's going with a I wouldn't say he's going with a disadvantage necessarily. I think other riders, namely the Aprilia riders, are going there with much more of an advantage, being the best package on the grid, and a track like Brno pretty much being tailor-made to what the Aprilia brings in terms of smooth cornering,
Yeah,
fast flowing entrances and
yeah.
exits. So to answer your question, I wouldn't say it's necessarily that Mark's coming to a track with disadvantages. I just think his direct rivals have much more of an advantage this weekend than they did at Balaton Park. Because, we both, well, not us, I had some very, very strong opinions on Balaton Park last week when we discussed it. I have much better opinions on Brno. It's one of the best European tracks there is. It's some of the best action, some of the best overtakes that you see. And yeah, I think we're in for a far more competitive round this weekend than
Oh
last.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think no, I was slating Balotan as well, definitely. I just wasn't slamming the idea of a Miami launch event as much as you, which if you haven't
You
seen
also
last
didn't.
week's
You also
episode,
didn't. You also didn't call for Balaton Park to be bombed, which in all fairness I did.
yeah, yeah, I can't remember, folks, if I edited that bit out, but oh dear, you know, uh, no, almost 5 days have gone by since that episode because we released it quite late. But yeah, if you Keelan did not hold back on that one, but yes, Bruno is completely different to Balaton. It couldn't be further different. So I'm expecting the Aprilia to shine quite strong as well. Maybe even all four as well. Because usually when we've got an Aprilia OP bike track, it seems to be the Trackhouse team aren't too far behind the factory boys, are they? So watch out for the Trackhouse boys, especially considering the fact that Raul is still massively trying to keep his job in MotoGP. I would expect Raul to be fairly fast this weekend as well. For his sake, I bloody hope so. And have Iger as well. So yeah, I can't see them doing too badly this weekend. And obviously we've still got Crutchlow on the grid. Who can forget his 2016 Grand Prix win, which of course was his first race win and the first British riders race win in the Premier Class since Sheen in 1982. So Carl gets to go back to Brno. And his third Grand Prix this year, standing in for Jean Zarco. We don't know how many more he'll do. He might do a few more, Keelan, considering the fact that LCR, Lucio Cecchinelli himself has said they've had to wait on some surgeries because of risk of infection. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on Cal's chances? Because there's even talk of more stuff being taken off the bikes, tech-wise, for next year, so Cal might feel more at home.
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think the thing is with Cal Crutchlow, obviously very, very experienced campaigner, very seasoned. He's the ultimate pro. And look, Lucio Cecchinello loves him, and Cal, I think, loves Lucio. So it makes
Yeah,
a
yeah,
ton of sense in that way. But I think if you're expecting or even hoping for some kind of miracle, I do think it's wishful thinking, unfortunately. I mean, if
yeah,
you look at the previous rounds, although completely understandably why, Cal's at the foot of the standings because he's not a fully fit MotoGP rider, so it's unrealistic to expect anything else. That being said, I'm never going to complain about Cal Crutchlow being on the grid. I love him. I've always been a big fan of Cal Crutchlow. I think we both are. And look, anytime you get to see him in the MotoGP paddock, you savor it and you enjoy it. And
mm,
I think what
mm.
he's really doing is he's just holding down the fort until Joan Zarco gets back. And
Yeah,
I
of
think it's
course,
good
yeah.
because nobody's expecting anything else, so there's no real pressure either. So it's a good thing.
No, it is a good thing. I think by the time, well, and I'm hoping Zarco comes back sooner rather than later because for the sake of the team getting results, because Cal will probably bring it home. And he won't be pushing them hard enough to win, but they need as many points as possible for the team's morale and sponsors' morale, and just because they want to, you know. But having Cal there is nice, and he won 3 Grand Prix in MotoGP, all for them, I might add. So yeah, I can't expect any miracles. And by the time he gets up to speed, it might be time for him to move back off the bike, maybe into a testing role. He's not ruled that out. He says to the media, and he's still fast. I think it might be quite good for a manufacturer to have Cal have a minor testing role going into a new era, because that experience and that age bracket he's in is something that is usually for you see the Japanese test riders for that age bracket, but they'll be slower than Cal will. So if he gets bored, I don't see why not. And let's be honest, after all, it was his wife Lucy that was saying, "Well, why aren't you going to do it?"
Hmm.
So she was the one egging him on. So you never know, we might see Cal again in 2027. In a new era where there's less devices, and it's apparently it sounds like it'd be more plug and play to a degree. So we'll have to see. Um, but going forward, I think it's more important that we acknowledge how incredibly lucky we are to have Alex Marquez back this
Oh
weekend.
yeah.
Um, because I think a lot of us are not trying to actively forget Catalonia, but it's one of those pages of MotoGP it is a dark page that's we'll hopefully we'll learn from. And I'm glad we've got one of the riders from one of those accidents, because it was like 2 accidents, wasn't it? So Alex Marquez being back this early, I think he's amazing. I'll be intrigued to see how fit he is, Keelan. And where do you think he'll fare? I mean, they have not really said if he's 100 or not 90 or 80%, have they?
No, they haven't. And look, first of all, we were saying this before we started, folks. It's brilliant to have Alex Marquez back. All credit to Iker Lecuona. I think he did a brilliant job standing in, to be fair. I
Oh,
think he
stellar
did
job.
pretty
Yeah,
spectacularly, actually. But it's obviously brilliant to have one of our own riders back. And look, Alex Marquez is a brilliant rider. You make a very good point, though. What actual condition he's going to show up in is really anybody's guess, because it's one thing passing the medical inspection, it's another thing being even remotely competitive once you're back. So it's really hard to say what actual shape Alex Marquez is in, not
yeah,
just physically, but psychologically as well. Because when you have a crash the way he did, that
yeah,
you could argue should have ended much worse than it did. Thank the Lord it didn't. But you can
yeah,
argue that when you go through such a traumatic experience, it's going to take a very long time, you would think, for him to be fully not reckless, that's not the right word, but fully, willing to throw anything at it to get the job done
yeah,
and to get the win.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's obviously brilliant to have him back. How competitive he's actually going to be, I can't even give you a guess because I don't know what condition he's in and what way he's going to show up. But I am rooting for him, and I really hope he gets up to speed sooner rather than later.
It could be one of those where he does FP1 and thinks, nah, 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 I'm not ready for this. I need another week, or so. It could be like that. Um, that's if he's passed. Um, is someone soaring outside your house, Keelan? I've got some new
Yeah,
earbuds in there.
there's a guy
It
standing.
doesn't matter. It's fine. It's fine. I'm sure if it stays into the recording, I'm sure hopefully people aren't too annoyed by it because I've just observed it. That's all. But yeah, Alex Marquez. I'm hoping that he can make the whole weekend. If not, at least he's back and he's fine. It's just it might not be ready to race in anger. I think is what you were trying to say as well.
Yeah,
Full anger, full send. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm predicting an Aprilia will win the race. I think Mark will still be on the podium though, just because of the confidence thing, and he looks like he's in good shape. Because obviously, it was quite physical at Balaton. But not that Brno isn't physical, but it's more flowing. Mark's not been known to be legendary at flowing tracks, but I still think he won last year at Brno. So I can imagine he'll be there. But I'm expecting a Bez win. I think in a Jorge Martin P2. We'll have to see. It could be the other way around. I still think that you'll see two Aprilias in the podium. KTM's, I think there'll only be one KTM near the front, sadly. Sorry, Brad and co. But we'll have to see. Bastianini did well in the sprint last year. He was strong at Brno last year, so we'll have to see. But I think maybe the surprise will be Pecco Bagnaia again. Two podiums in a row for him. But that's my predictions for the weekend, general predictions. Have you got any general predictions like that?
I do have predictions, but unfortunately, they don't come that far different from what you said. I think this is a track that favors Aprilia really well. It favored them last year, like you said, when they weren't even the best bike in the grid. And you have
Yeah,
to think it's going to favor them even more now that they arguably are the best bike in the grid.
yeah,
I mean, if one or both of Marco Bezzecchi and Jorge Martin aren't at least on the podium, I will be shocked. I will say that. And to be honest, with Jorge Martin's stupidity at Balaton Park, they have to hope they're on the podium because they
yeah,
can't keep throwing points away with Marc Marquez on their tail.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's not even that I think Aprilia will do well. I think they have to do well. I think Mark is going to chase them all the way down to the end, though, if not slightly pipping them, because I just think
yeah,
he's that good. So I
yeah.
think it's really going to be Mark versus everybody.
Yeah, I think if Aprilia can beat Mark, both of the factory boys I'm talking about, because it's those three riders that let's be honest, are fighting for the championship. I think
Yeah.
that's the picture that's painted now, which is fair. Um, I think if Mark can beat them, then at Brno, that shows that Mark can still win this world championship. Truthfully, we
Yeah.
we kind of know he can mathematically, obviously, folks. We know this, but I think realistically, if he can beat both of them there, that's not good. They'd have to keep finishing second and third, which won't happen all the time. But if the Aprilias can beat Mark and Mark's like fifth P5 or something like that, then that just shows that Mark's got a really really tough challenge now. So I can't wait to see where he's going to be and where they're going to be. I'm really looking forward to this weekend. Really can't wait. I'm going to be watching it with Alex as well, folks, and our partners, and then we're going to have a big Sunday roast as well. So I can't wait for this weekend. So yeah, but that's not really why we're excited to be recording this week. Came up with an idea today, folks. Keelan was up for this as well, and I'm going to ask next time Alex is on. I'm going to make sure he has his answer to this, and we've got a surprise guest podcast coming in a couple of weeks. Well, Grassroots. I'll tell you who it is. Grassroots Grand Prix. Ryan from Grassroots Grand Prix. He'll be on. So he'll be giving us his list. The list I'm talking about is the perfect 24. Now, Keelan has come up with his. I'm hoping he's finished it because he was struggling earlier on. I think I was struggling earlier on. And we have the best 24 riders in the world from 1949 in the Premier Class to today. Keelan, did you finish in time?
Yes, Jim, I did actually finish in time, and I'm not sure if we're gonna. I mean, there's obviously going to be a few names here that are going to be the same, but I am so excited to get into this and see who's got what
Yeah,
and where. I know you've
yeah,
laid it out a bit differently. I've just solely
yeah.
gone for names because I tried to
Okay,
do what you did and put them by manufacturer and by team, but to be honest, it got too complicated and I kind of gave up at the end. But
yeah,
really excited to see what we've got here.
yeah. Yeah, no, I went into some detail from this. Obviously, if you've got from 1949 till now, you're mixing eras, which is what everyone who knows about motorcycle racing says, and they're quite right. You can't really compare one rider from a different era to another rider. It gets too complicated and it's unfair. So that's why this is a bit of fun, really. But it just shows the greats, in my opinion, and compliments, for some of them, it compliments the team they rode for as well. So, yeah. Would you like me to go first, Keelan, or would you, or shall I mean, what do you want to do? Since
Nope,
you've got the names already.
you're our gracious host. Start us off with your first pair, Jim.
Okay. Well, I'm not, by the way, folks, I've gone for a generic four-stroke MotoGP era. So, not like early 2000s, not mid 2010s, anything like that, just a generic four-stroke MotoGP era. Okay. And every single bike, because it's hypothetical, is a factory bike. So there's no Repsol Honda and there's no LCR. There's Honda Team 1, Honda Team 2, Honda Team 3, Ducati Team 1. That's what I've sort of done. So anyway, Honda Team 1, Marc Marquez and Mick Doohan. Honda Team 2 is Mike Hailwood and Danny Pedrosa. Honda Team 3, Wayne Gardner and Nicky Hayden. Yamaha Team 1, Valentino Rossi and Eddie Lawson. Yamaha Team 2, Wayne Rainey and Kenny Roberts Sr. Ducati Team 1, Casey Stoner and Giacomo Agostini. Ducati Team 2, Pecco Bagnaia and Jorge Martin. Aprilia Team 1, Jorge Lorenzo and Fabio Quartararo. Aprilia Team 2, Freddie Spencer and Max Biaggi. Suzuki Team 1, Kevin Schwantz and Barry Sheen. Suzuki Team 2, John Surtees and Jeff Duke. And there's a sole KTM team to make it a 24 grid, folks. And this was tough because there's a lot of riders that you probably think, you've not mentioned so-and-so, but the last team is actually Pedro Acosta, KTM, and Andrea Dovizioso. And that was a bloody hard one in the end
Wow.
there. Yeah. So some decisions there were hard, but I'm quite happy with some of the legendary names with a lot of titles next to their names, folks. Some had fewer 500 titles, but a lot of titles in other categories. But we all, obviously, every single rider in that list was in the Premier Class motorcycle racing, and more or less all of them won a title. Pedro Costa is probably, well, definitely is statistically the least statistically qualified rider on that list. But because of Pedro, his stature, I wouldn't want to see Pedro off that list going forward in like a fantasy history list. I think Pedro has to be on it for me. So the challengers I put in a little list here who should have been on it but didn't quite. Tough. Alex Crivier, Cal Crutchlow, Marco Bezzecchi, Sete Gibernau, Jarno Saarinen. Now, Saarinen was going to be a great. He was going to be a great. Noric Arbe, Roberts Jr., and Loris Caparossi. So there's some of the challenges that came close on that list and missed out. So, Keelan, before we move on to yours, I'm actually really, really excited to hear yours. Any surprises there to you?
Yeah, about half of your list, I have to say. I haven't
Interesting.
gone for, I have only gone for, let me just double check this because I think I've gone for one current rider on the grid and half of yours are current riders. This is fascinating, Jim.
I was hoping it would be fascinating and different.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. My reasoning behind some. I mean, if you look at Pecco Bagnaia and Jorge Martin and the competition they've been against since 2021, the grid is stacked now, and more or less every bike is factory spec. And to be a double world champion for Pecco and a Moto 2 champion, and a Moto 3 champion and a single MotoGP champion, Jorge Martin, they are already more qualified than the likes of Trivier, Crutchlow, Bez, Gibernau, Saarinen Arbe, Caparossi by statistics, and they're still young. They probably will win more championships in the future. That's my argument, folks. For those two at least, Acosta was a tough one. Truthfully, Crivier won a 125 championship and a 1999 500cc championship, and Pedro hasn't even won a Premier Class MotoGP race yet. Okay, so that was a tough call. But I think the fun of it, we're having 24, is that if you had 26, that we nearly made a decision on, didn't we, Keelan? I think it becomes a little too easy for me. I think if you have 24 bikes, 24 of the best in history, it's a tougher decision, which is more fun. Dovi won a lot of races in an era which had the Cal on a Honda winning races, Rossi on Yamaha winning races, Iannone, Mark, Danny Pedrosa, Lorenzo. Dovi could still win races against those riders in a stacked grid. And Dovi was runner up several times in MotoGP, and I think he deserved a slot on that grid. So that's my excuse for someone like Dovi. Yes, he's not on the current grid. Mark had to be on the grid for obvious reasons. You don't need me to explain that, folks, so I won't waste your time. Fabio Quartararo explanation. One world title and a natural
But
ability
it's
that,
almost worth 2 or 3 titles because it was on a Yamaha. So I totally get where you're coming from.
yeah. And I think, again, like my challenges list, I thought it was important to have this challenges list. Like Crivier and Roberts Jr., yes, they won championships, but I think Fabio is more naturally gifted. I really do. Roberts Jr.'s championship in 2000, yes, he had some good competition, but Fabio's competition was stronger. Your Arbes of this world and your Caparossis and your Biagis were fast. Biaggi especially, but um, I truthfully think Quartararo is more naturally gifted, and we haven't even seen the best of him yet. You have to have him, in my opinion, you have to have him on this grid as a current rider. Yeah, Martin and Pecca Bagnaia and Acosta. I think some people will debate that. Fine, fair. Give us a comment, folks. In fact, give us a comment if you full grid, folks. If you find it fun, I'll find it really interesting. So on Keelan, so brilliant. Anyway, Keelan's probably aching to do it, so I'll shut up and Keelan, tell me your 24 riders.
All right, folks. When I tell you I have been excited to get into this, believe me, I am excited to get into this. So before we start, ladies and gentlemen, assume that everybody's on the same bike. Whatever you think is the greatest Grand Prix machine ever made. Maybe it's an RC211V, maybe it's a GP24 Ducati, maybe it's a 2009 Yamaha M1. Pick whatever bike you think is the best ever made and assume that all 24 riders have the same factory spec bike because that's the only real way
Nice.
this
I like the
works.
style. I like your style. Yeah.
So let's start from not necessarily the back of the grid, but I want to work my way up in reverse order, sort of just to build cheap hype more than anything else. So our first 2 riders on the grid, Jim, you have mentioned them already. We have Loris Capirossi and we have Max Biaggi.
Nice. Nice, nice, nice.
So
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
so those are our first two. Just ahead of them, Jeff Duke and Alex Crivier.
Oh, Crivier made your list. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Crevier made the list.
yeah.
Next up, Phil Reed and Freddie Spencer.
Yeah, so I've got Freddie as well, didn't I? Think.
Did you go
Yes.
Freddie?
Yeah, I put Freddie in my second Aprilia team, which is a niche one. But
Ah,
yeah,
nice. Yes.
yeah, because I did have Freddie on a Honda at first, and then I jiggled things around because I needed to have Nicky Hayden, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So that's why I jiggled my around. But yeah, interesting, Jeff Duke. I think he deserved a spot because some people might think, well, that's a long time ago. But look how many titles he won in the Premier class. And that's
Yeah.
the rules of the game, isn't it? So yeah, fair play with that one. Yeah,
And then obviously, I think Phil Reed is one of the most underrated and not talked about enough champions ever. So I really wanted to put him in there. Next up, we have Wayne Gardner and Eddie Lawson.
yeah, yeah. Because you can't have that era was such a golden one. You can't really ignore anyone from that
Yeah.
handful of riders, can you? Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
n- next up in my next sort of team, we have obviously Mick Doohan and we have Jorge Lorenzo.
That would be a team, wouldn't it?
Oh,
Yeah,
it's just
yeah,
dirty. I
yeah,
love it.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
and then just up the grid from them, we have Giacomo Agostini and Danny Pedrosa.
yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, I've got both of those riders. I mean, I've teamed them like that, but yeah, Danny. I knew this would happen as well about Danny. No MotoGP championship, but I knew you'd pick him in yours, and I know because he's the greatest rider of all time to never win the Premier Class Championship easily.
Totally agree.
And the fact that I've got him and not Roberts Jr., who was a champion, and not Trivier, who was a champion, just shows you, doesn't it, how
Yeah.
much of a travesty, folks, it was that Danny Pedrosa never won a world championship in the Premier Class. It really
Yeah.
was. But yeah, carry on.
And then next up, we have two of my favorite riders of all time who sadly and heartbreakingly are no longer with us, unfortunately. We have Marco Simoncelli and Tajiro Kato.
Yep. Now both of those
Um,
nearly made the list for me. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, obviously, I mean, I'll try and go into a deeper explanation at the end, but Marco Simoncelli, one of my favorite riders of all time, one of my favorite bikes of all time, the San Carlo Grassini Honda. The Giro Cato would have been a Premier Class champion. I have every confidence of saying that. I think he was a
yeah,
really, really good. I think he was a brilliant talent, and sadly, he was taken far too soon, but it is what it is, sadly. Next up, we've got the old British team of Sir John Surtees and Mike the Bike Hailwood.
yeah. I'm glad you put Elwood in it. And do you know what? Surtees is on my. I have a Suzuki team too of Duke and Surtees. So yeah, I'm glad that they're
Nice.
on your list, mate. Yeah, yeah, I'm glad.
No, they were never not going to be. I mean, two of the most accomplished figures in the history of our sport. They
Yeah,
absolutely have to be
yeah,
in there.
yeah, yeah.
Next up is one of the most fun pairings in my team, and I just think this would be really, really cool to see. We've got one of my favorite riders of all time, Barry Sheen, and I've paired him with Wayne Rainey.
Completely different people. But you, well, yeah, I mean, yeah. To be fair, I put who did I put Barry with? I thought as a tribute to Suzuki, the Suzuki Team One was Schwantz and Sheen for me. But yeah, for Rainey and Sheen, that would have been interesting. I think Rainey was a massive professional as well.
Yeah.
Not saying, and Barry was a playboy, so that would have been that would have been a mega contrast. Yeah, this is good fun. Carry on.
So next up, we've got an All-American pairing, again featuring another one of my favorite riders ever. I obviously had to go Nicky Hayden as well, and I've paired Nicky with Kevin Schwantz.
Yeah, that would be an amazing team. Um, yeah, good fun. That would be good fun.
Yeah, this next team, obviously, in case anybody's counting, we're down to the final four, just in case anybody's wondering. This is the team we were robbed of in 2013, and I would have killed to have seen it. We have Marc Marquez and Casey
Casey
Stoner.
Stoner. Yeah, yeah. No, that's a good way of putting it. Actually, yeah, that would have been amazing. The battles we never saw.
Oh,
Um, yeah. Although I do have a theory on that. Um, unless you haven't finished your grid, I'll tell you after. But I don't know. I haven't been counting to 24 there.
yeah,
Sorry.
so I've so I've got my final two, and I've mentioned a rider I don't think you did mention.
Yeah,
So I'm quite interested to see what you think. Obviously, Valentino Rossi was never going
yeah.
to be a list without Valentino, and I've paired him with Kenny Roberts Sr.
Good team. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I mean, I've got them in. I've got Rossi in team one with Lawson, and team two is Robert Senior with Rainey. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. To be fair, so mixing matching definitely. That's a good.
And
That would
I
be a good team.
I believe that is my grid. I think that's all
Yeah,
24.
I like that a lot. To be fair, might be some trickery with some thumbnails, folks. However, you're going to be listening, watching this, but yeah, no, I'm glad we did that, and we'll be any guests we have in the future, folks, whether it's Alex, Ryan, or a rider, if they have time to do that sort of thing, then yeah, I might get them to do their perfect 24 as a thing for us. It is a lot of thinking, and it's not exactly a short thing, but yeah, it's a bit fun. I might also add that I did have Marcus Simoncelli on my list as the second Aprilia team with Biaggi. But jiggling things round, I thought I had to add Nicky Hayden. So I had to bump Simoncelli off the list. Nicky Hayden's a world champion in the Premier class. Marco was a 250 champion, but he wasn't a GP champion. He hadn't won a race. And Marco, and then I forgot to put him for some reason. After I took him off, I forgot to put him in my challenges list. So don't worry, folks. I'm not a monster. Simoncelli was actually on my full list anyway. And also Kato, I considered Kato because again, he he started. Well, I think he won 11 out of 16 races in the 250 championship in 2001,
Yep.
And in 2002, he was with the Gresini Honda team. And I think he got the four-stroke RCV in the second half of the year. And he was running near the front with Valentino. And obviously, early 2003, when he was teammates with Sete, he was killed at the Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka. A
Yep.
bit of a weird accident, a freak accident where the wall was too close and he was paralyzed quite heavily. He was a bit older than some going into the Premier class because he was born in 1976. So in by 2003, he was 27 then. So he wasn't the youngest um, sophomore year rider, but Kato would have definitely, I have to agree with Keelin, Kato would have won races, multiple races. Considering we won in 1976, he'd have been 30 in 2006, so we could have seen Kato go on to championships for all we know. We will never know because he arguably was probably a stronger rider than his countrymen, like Shinya Nakano, potentially,
Yep.
Okada. He dominated more than Harada did in 250. So yeah, Kato would have been. Yeah, Kato was on the list as well for a degree. But the thing is, folks, at the end of the day, my list was based on pure achievements, and that's why some of the characters that are missed out as well that we love, like we've already mentioned, and Caparossi was what provided the missed out. Norikabe, Jarno Saarinen. Now that's a name of a rider who had the
I love
promise
that
of the likes
shout.
of yeah. Saarinen was the rider who had the promise of the likes of my old man said to me years ago, like 5 years ago. He said that no, it was more like I think 2019. I remember meeting my dad and not seen him in a month. He said, "I love this Quattararo. He reminds me of Saarinen. He's come from bloody nowhere, and all of a sudden he's at the front. I love that." And then never forgot he said that. And then he told me about Janis Saarinen. And he was obviously killed as well with Renzo Pasolini in Monza in the early 70s, which is a horrific accident. Um, so I think Saarinen would have gone on to greater things. I think in that year he was sadly killed. He won, I think he won the two opening races. The Saarinen would have been a great of the sport, and yeah, from Finland as well. I think Rico Salmela in Moto3 is the country's next biggest hope, and he's doing quite well at the moment. So yeah, Saarinen would have been a great, and he nearly made he nearly made the list. I
Did
kind
Barry
of
Sheen
wanted
ever
him to.
team with? Did Barry Sheen ever team with Jarno Saarinen, or am I thinking of
Off the,
someone else?
it might be someone else because Sheen was only just coming on the scene when Saarinen passed away. Sadly, maybe yeah. Sheen's the first 560 year. I think was 74. I could check that off the top of my head. The full season. Obviously, he won the championship in 76. And I can't imagine that was Sheen's first year. I think he was there at 75 or 74. But Saarinen would have been a great, I think, as well. So
Oh, they
um,
were.
yeah. Saarinen was. Um, people who know in the know of the time is still alive now will say he was going to be one of the best ever. So yeah, he
Oh, he
had to
was
be.
brilliant.
Yeah, yeah. Seth Gibernau, Marco Bezzecchi, Carl Crutchlow, Alex Crivier. I mean, you put Crivier on. I do regret it a bit, but I just don't know where the bloody hell to put them. You could argue I could have put Crivier in instead of Dovizioso. Yeah, folks, I know. I could have easily done that. I could have done it instead of Pedro Costa. I know, but I thought think long and hard, folks. Can you just picture Acosta's career? Yes, this is what people have already achieved, and Acosta hasn't done it, but he is a Premier Class rider. Can you really see him not being part of the greats? So yeah, it was always going to be a controversial list. But yours, I think, I do like the way you did it with your layout as well. I think having any bike you want makes it a bit more dreamy, which is probably a better
Yeah.
way of doing it. But yeah,
Well, my big thing is as well, and I'm not sure if people listening will agree or not. What I really want is, and I'm hoping we do a lot more of these type of lists because it was a lot of fun to put together. What I
yeah,
want to do is, because people in F1 debate this all the time about, if everybody had the exact same car, who would
they
win?
do, don't they?
Well,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
in MotoGP, if we had the exact same spec machinery for every single rider of any era, based on talent and grit alone, who would be the best pairing. And that's why I laid it out the way I did. And what I liked about it was it gives people imagination. So I'm not
Yeah,
telling you what bike to consider. If you think it's the Honda RC211V that's the best
yeah,
bike ever made, use that as the basis. If you think it's the '09
yeah.
Yamaha M1, use that as the basis. And yeah, it's a great way to get people involved. And
Good
I
shout with
really
the
hope some of you,
09M1.
yeah, oh man, smoothest
Yeah,
bike ever made, arguably. But
yeah,
I would really love to see people, if you give us your comments, send in the messages, whatever, let us know your grid and what you think and who you would swap out for
yeah,
who, because we had a lot of fun putting these together, and we hope you do too.
yeah, yeah. It was fun. Um, it is a bit like I said. These riders come from completely different eras, and you could argue, folks, and I'd slightly agree with you as well that some of the riders from the 50s and 60s and 70s, some of those riders won by minutes because their machinery was superior to their rivals.
Yeah,
But then again, at the same time, you can only beat who you're racing against.
that's it.
So it's not your problem, is it? And truthfully, I considered Phil Reed as well, but Phil Reed was beaten. He was in an era where he had to fight Agostini and Barry. But Phil, yeah, again, I think he had to miss out as well in my list. Again, personality wise, he probably would make it on to a degree for some people. But some of these riders had to work really hard as well that didn't make it because they didn't win a championship. And so you'll whine if you got a Costa on because of how good he is and how good he will be and how good he is on a 500 on a current KTM. And I know if you put Pedro, people say, "Oh, they've got traction control, they've got all this and that." And the other. Yes, okay, they do. But at the same time, Mick Doohan himself has said that the likes of Mark and Pedro, if they were on a 500 fire breathing monster of the late 80s and the early 90s, they would have been as good. They would have had to ride it differently, but they would have been as good. And Mick did silence a few people when he spoke so highly of Mark, especially saying Mark would have been one of the best 500 riders because of his bike control. So some eras you can, when someone like that who knows more than most, you can sometimes imagine someone in a different era. I know, but it is hard to compare. That's why this is a bit of fun. Also, I mentioned Freddie Spencer as well. I think you did as well, didn't you, Freddie Spencer?
Yep, Fred.
I know he won the 250 championship the same year as the 500, which no one's done before, and everyone has said he's the most naturally gifted rider maybe ever, but just could have done better, could have done more if things worked out. So yeah, he had to be on the list. There's some people like if you've only followed it since I don't know 2005 onwards, 2010 onwards, since the Rossi Marquez thing, 2015 onwards, whatever. Then you'll think, oh, you're just going by the stats. Well, kind of sometimes to a degree you have to, but also when my old man's born in 1951, you hear tales and stories and you sort of appreciate how special people were. So Keelan probably has a similar thing to, stories to tell. When you hear experts say so and so was actually this good, it does filter through your head. Like if it was a World Superbike one, I'd probably put Troy Corser on there straight away. As
Yeah,
well, because people say he was one of the best, most talented riders, naturally gifted riders who should have made it in Grand Prix, never did. Could say the same about Kyle Fogarty, should have made it in 500 Grand Prix, never did. This isn't a British podcast; it's a generic podcast that we have a British flavour to. So, but yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Sorry if your favourite rider didn't make it on. Sorry if Bez didn't make it on. Sorry if
and
Norikawa fans.
congratulations if they did.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. People might even question me putting Paco on current form, but you need to see the bigger picture, folks, and previous form and what someone can do in Moto 3, Moto 2, what they can do in the future, how good they were against Mark on a good bike as well. So when he was doing well at Honda. So yeah, there's various reasons. There's reasons behind Keelan's list. There's reasons behind my list. Some people don't need explanations. A lot of them don't. Like the Agostini thing, the Stoner's thing on a Ducati. Why would you not put Casey on a Ducati again? Why would you not put Mark and Mick Doohan on Hondas? Mike Harewood rode the wheels off Hondas. He was multi-champion. Danny deserves to be MotoGP anyway. So yeah, and Rossi speaks for himself. So yeah, put your lists in the comments, folks, if you get a chance. And if you'd rather not do it on Spotify, give us a comment on the Instagram. Little reel we'll do. Yeah, let us know. And do you know what? If there's enough comments, we might even we'll talk about it in another episode upcoming, and we might have more fun when Ryan's on from Grassroots and when Alex comes on. And I'm hoping we get some stick. Actually, that'd be quite fun. Just don't call us names and give us a bad rate, please. We beg. we beg. By the way, I forgot last weekend, Keelan. Last week, sorry. Give us a follow, folks, because if you are on Instagram, ElbowsDownGP. I'm hoping that's the username because I never plug our podcast because I feel like I'm begging. I'm not. But if you use Instagram a lot, we are on Instagram. So ElbowsDownGP, and we're on X as well. Same thing. On Facebook too. We are trying to get on top of the socials and uploading on more platforms. It's just a lot of work, but we love doing it. So yeah, keep an eye out for us on social media platforms and. I think as well on the YouTube, we obviously upload the podcast to YouTube. But I'm thinking of putting it on SoundCloud again as well. So look out for it on there, folks. But Keelan, I've been rambling on. Anything else to add before we wrap up? Before we wish everyone an enjoyable Brno GP?
Yeah, it's been a really fun episode. Obviously, breaking down Brno, what's going to come from there. This sort of fantasy grid draft's been a hell of a lot of fun. As we said, folks, leave your questions, your comments, your opinions, your grids in the comments below. Get in touch if you have any thoughts. We're here to engage with the fans, and people who listen as much as anything. But yeah, listen, I'm going to respectfully disagree with Jim. Feel free to insult me if you want, as long as you like and leave a comment and you help us with the engagement. It really doesn't bother me all that much. But get involved, let us know what you think, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, right back at what he said. But yeah, enjoy the Czech Grand Prix, folks, and enjoy a proper motorcycle Grand Prix racing track again. And have a good week and enjoy the World Cup if that's your thing.
See ya.
No, I'm joking. See you, folks. Bye bye.